Wednesday, October 24th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, final thoughts. Trigun.
Let's do this.
So last week in Questions Week, I remember one of the questions was, what anime in the upcoming season are you excited about? We didn't really answer it.
Oh, right. This is what we were going to do is the opening bit that I just forgot.
I finally got around to watching some of the anime from this season. And Cody...
It's not Cody. It's Code E, as in code, C-O-D-E, and then the letter E.
As in Cody.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you said it sort of like Cody, like C-O-D-Y.
Cody.
It's Code
I definitely
E.
emphasize the E.
Yes, it's a good show. We watched one episode, and I want to see more episodes.
So far, it's my favorite show this season, just because it reminded me a lot, just the character designs and the way they moved their mouths, and just of Project Echo. Like, it's one of those cute, funny...
It did remind me of Project Echo.
It did. Emily said the same thing, too, especially the one girl when her mouth... Like, the way mouths open widely is a lot like how mouths open widely in Project Echo, and...
I guess.
The girl who likes...
It's a good show, even if it's not like Project
The girl who
Echo,
likes the boy,
which is also a good
not the
show.
main character, but the other girl.
Yeah, okay, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much exactly.
Maybe. We should look and see if there are any creators in common.
I haven't looked at anything yet. I'm just saying that it reminded me a lot of Project Echo, and it's a really cute show, and it's not creepy and moe.
No, it's definitely surprising because you look at it, and I mean, there's like 6 or 7 moe shows this season. It's like fuck, right? And like some of the ones that aren't moe, I checked them out. Like I checked out, I think, Rental Magica, which had a pretty good premise of, renting magicians to help you out when you had problems. That sucked. That was a crap show.
Well, I expected as much.
Yeah, but no, the Code E is good. This Ghost Hound, is that what it's called? I think that's a Masamune Shiro / Project Studio IG or Production IG, whatever you want to call them, show. But I haven't watched that yet, so we got to see on that. But I doubt it could be bad.
There's the Yuri kind of sci-fi and space show.
Oh, I forget what that's called.
Blue Drop?
Oh, Blue Drop, you're right.
That show gives me all the vibes that Moonlight Mile gave me before I actually saw Moonlight Mile.
Yeah, we haven't seen this, so we'll watch Blue Drop and then we'll tell you how it is.
But I gotta say, just from skimming through and looking at like the opening bit, it feels like how I felt about Moonlight Mile. Like, this is gonna be some hardcore, serious sci-fi. But in what I saw and what we watched so far, not one Sherpa had sex, so I got some high hopes.
It could be somewhere between Moonlight Mile and Tutera.
If that's where it is, that's pretty much uncharted, awesome waters right there.
It's not a bad place to be, for certain.
That's a real good place to be.
We haven't watched that one, though. And there's only 2 other shows to mention, and that is the Gundam show.
Which is okay.
Yeah, I watched 2 episodes, and the first episode was mostly shooting, and the second episode was
let me
much
put it this way.
better.
The premise is good. Like, I could see where it's going. I kind of like that. It's different from other Gundams. I could dig it. But at the same time, I don't really like the character designs.
The character design is pretty crummy, but Gerald from Anime World Order said that some shonen like boys love character designer designed all the characters.
I mean, the women's breasts just don't look right. They're way too big, and they're sticking
they're
up.
Balloons full of helium is what they are.
That, and I'll be honest, the show is a little heavy-handed. It's kind of like... It's set in our world.
I know, it's tough because on the one hand, right, it's sort of this heavy-handed.
But they didn't do anything interesting with the heavy-handed. It's like, look at the United States. Yeah.
Yep, but on the other hand, right, it's sort of like the heavy-handedness gets the obvious shit out of the way right away. Like, in the second episode, they're like, yeah, the obvious contradiction of fighting war with war. And it's like Gundam shows used to be at the end, like, the whole time at the end, they'd be like, yeah, fighting war with war doesn't work. In like the 26th episode or the 50th episode. Now they're getting that out of the way in the second episode, which gives me a tiny hope that the rest of it will be something new and interesting. I guess that's sort of a high expectation to have.
I'm really dubious. The other problem is that
dubious, but it's possible.
The characters, as they've been introduced, feel really shallow. Now, they could make them with more depth. There could be a lot more to the show.
I think it's because, whereas in other Gundams, right, they sort of introduce some of the characters and they sort of expand to give you the bigger picture over time. They start with, like, just some kids, and then they expand out. This one is, like, starts showing you everything. So the first episode is, like, you get to see each character for, like, 5 seconds.
But even, like, when you see them, just, like, they all react, like, half the people are, like, mysterious, oh, it's begun, say something cryptic, and look off to the camera. It's
All right,
just,
we're gonna let's not do a whole episode on it, but yeah, if you like Gundams, you'll like it, I guess.
we'll see.
See.
I hate to say it, but I'm a little pessimistic about the show.
It's on an episode by episode basis, sort of like when some one of your athletes is on the day-to-day injury list, which means they're day-to-day. They might be playing today, not playing tomorrow.
Of the shows I'm giving a chance this season, it's my least liked one.
Yeah. The one that was the Under Arrest. You're Under Arrest. There's a new You're Under Arrest, and if you don't know about You're Under Arrest, it's very old. I guess not very old, but it's sort of a somewhat classic.
It's one of those old awesome shows.
Yeah, it's sort of like from the 80s, 90s-ish kind of thing. It's a funny show. All I never actually saw it, even though I knew about it and knew it was good.
It's one of those slice of life camaraderie shows.
Yeah, it's a buddy show about like two women on the police force.
It's
and
not about them. You know what it's about? It's about all the awesome side characters.
Pretty much, yeah. But they are, they're actually interesting, the main characters, though. They're not, it's not like one of those shows where the side characters are awesome and the main characters suck. It's the main characters are good and the side characters are more good. But yeah, there's a new season of it, I guess. And, not ever having watched it before, but only knowing the most publicly known details about it, I had a little bit of there were some spots where it's like, yeah, I don't get this because I don't know these characters like I'm supposed to, but it's definitely an anime made now, but they haven't changed the style. It feels like, you gave some people from like 1995, 2007 animation technology, and they just made a show the way they knew how to make one. And if you like, that kind of anime, if you like You're Under Arrest already, you should probably watch this. It was funny, I'd never seen You're Under Arrest before, so.
Right, so in the news, I don't have a lot to say about this, but people are talking about it. The Japanese government has formally requested/demanded that the U.S. government do something about all this anime piracy going on in America.
Dun, 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 dun.
And one of the reasons they cited for this request was that it's very difficult to actually go after or prosecute anyone over international boundaries for copyright, especially when the things they're going after are peer-to-peer kind of things to begin with, where it's hard to even say who did it. Basically, they admitted that they can't get the fan subbers, and they're hoping that the U.S. government might have a little bit more truck.
Fun.
I don't think this is relevant at all. I think the real fear they have is not that there's anime piracy going on in the U.S. I think the fear is that more and more Japanese people, sick of insane DVD prices
and sick of having to watch on TV with commercials or something,
are just downloading American fan subs.
I say go them. If you are Japanese in Japan, download our fan subs. They are a gift to you.
Hell, just buy our DVDs. You'll still save a lot of money.
Yeah, buy our DVDs. What do you need? You don't need to see them right away. I mean, you could see stuff on TV. You understand Japanese if you're living in Japan, right? So, watch it on TV, and then if you watch it again, just wait for our DVDs to come out. Who cares if it takes a long time? You're not in any kind of rush. You got more new anime on TV.
I just really like how this is basically like, we want to go after those people, but
Maybe you should stop price gouging.
No, but if you read between the lines, it really says, we're powerless to go after these people. There is nothing we can do to stop these people. They're pretty much able to get away with whatever they want.
We can't do anything. Please do something.
So, take that as you will.
All right. My news is sort of, I guess, off. ICV2, which is, I don't know exactly what that stands for. I think it stands for something comics version 2. I'm not sure. But I know that it's a company that's sort of like a sub-company of Diamond Distributors in some way. I'm not, but anyway, they are hosting an industry conference before the New York Anime Festival. So it's not part of the New York Anime Festival. Like, you can't get into this conference with your New York Anime Festival badge. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and this is not a conference or a convention or anything like that for, I guess, you guys out there, fans. This is one of those pay a whole bunch of money to see a bunch of bigwigs talk about things.
This is sort of like one of those, the bigwigs in the industry hold a one-day conference for the little wigs in the industry, to come and learn from the bigwigs. And what basically all the big names in the U.S. anime and manga industry, they're all listed on Anime News Network, but some of the big ones are Kurt Hassler, who is pretty much single-handedly responsible for all the manga at the shelves at your bookstore. You should kiss his feet. The person, Lawrence Nevis, I think that's how you say the name, is the editorial director of Pokemon in the USA. This is the Pokemon guy in the US. He controls all your Pokemons. Does he have? He caught them all 10 times.
I'm not even going to make the joke.
I know, right? You got the Anime News Network, the top guy at Anime News Network. You got James Killen, the person who buys all the graphic novels for Barnes & Noble. So this person's job is to just decide which graphic novels, manga and otherwise, are on the shelves in Barnes & Noble and which ones are not. His job is to spend Barnes & Noble's money on comics. That's what his job is. And a lot of other equally important people. And they're going to give, 4 panels or so at...
Well, the conference is, inside the otaku generation, and they're trying to talk about fans and what fans want and how to sell things to fans and what the culture of anime fandom in the US is. And
they're going to talk about everything they know about trying to sell things to otaku, I guess, in the US and what they think and all that sort of stuff. And it's $200 and you can sit there all day.
Oh, here we go. Here's all the 4 conference... I'm quoting from the Anime News Network. The 4 conference sessions will discuss the overall trends in the anime and manga industries, the way to market to otaku, the female half of the otaku audience, and the effects of technology on future markets. So there you have it.
Yep.
That's what they're talking about.
So we're going to try our best to attend this thing because we're doing big stuff in New York Anime Festival anyway. We might as well try to go to this. I mean, if it's $200, maybe one of us will go. Maybe we'll spend the money.
It pretty much just depends on if I can get time off from my new job to go to this in addition to the New York Anime Festival.
Yeah, did you tell your new job about all the stuff that you're already taking days off?
Yeah, I'm
for?
not too worried about that.
Okay.
My new job is awesome.
Okay, but yeah. So we'll try our best to cover this for everyone, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Best case scenario, we'll be there as press, and we'll do our press thing.
Yeah, the best case scenario, we get
they're-
in for free, and we interview all these people. Worst case scenario, one of us goes and sits through 4 boring conferences.
Well, I guess worst case scenario, while we're there, there's an assassination attempt that goes bad, and we're both killed. And then the Geeknights hosting goes down, and then the Large Hadron Collider actually kills everyone.
I guess that is, but I'm talking about the worst case within this context. Not the worst case. Hey, you want to talk about the worst case in a complete universe context, everything blinks out of existence.
But then we wouldn't know. I think the worst case would be everything blinks out of
and
existence.
this horrible pain forever.
Okay.
The worst possible pain forever.
Things of the day. So, I don't like baseball so much. Man, I love playing baseball. I love playing softball. I don't like watching baseball.
You suck.
Unless it's Japanese baseball.
Oh, suddenly everything's you freaking weeaboo.
You want to know why? Like, if anyone ever doubts the awesomeness of Japanese baseball, watch my thing of the day, and I think no more needs be said.
I think your thing of the day does not tout the awesomeness of Japanese baseball, but instead further cements the awesomeness of Japanese television.
I might have to agree. Because, if I could
go-to for not having a thing of the day on Wednesday.
If I could get translated, like maybe an hour time shifted while some sweatshop translates it into English with subtitles, Japanese TV and a TiVo,
I'd quit my job.
I'd pay for that. I'd buy one of those fancy glasses and have a HUD of Japanese TV as long as
I'd
my
buy
eyes
an
were
HD
open.
TV just for that. All right, so my thing of the day is sort of underwear pervert related. It's actually this incredible blog. All right, you've seen blogs, right? And blogs...
I like how that's kind of like in middle school, where they're like, you start with a global statement, and then you coalesce your first paragraph to a thesis.
Exactly.
You've seen blogs.
Yeah, of course. Right? And blogs are usually, what's a blog? Some blogs just about everything. Some are about, one person. Some are like about gadgets. This blog has such a narrow focus. It's not even like a blog about like comics or a blog about underwear pervert.
This blog has perfected.
It's even more narrowly focused than a blog about like a specific comic. It is so narrowly focused.
It has perfected the art of attack only one.
Oh, it has indeed. This blog, which has been going for quite some time, they've got like 3 pages worth of posts here, is only about panels from comics, mostly underwear pervert comics in the US, in which someone gets hit in the beanbag.
Mean Bean Machine.
The URL of the blog is nadshot.com, NADSHOT.com, and all you see here are pictures from comics of someone getting hit in the crotch.
I think nothing more needs to be said than Robin hates your junk.
Well, I think my favorite one, even though it might not be the best one, is the one where Hercules just punches Galactus right in the... Well, because Galactus doesn't even have penis.
Junk.
He's like some inner...
I don't just forget the words, but just look at that shot of him kicking him in the nads. Well, the place where nads may or may not be on a being like that. But on like the next panel, just the look on Galactus's face.
And then Galactus says... Godling, because it's Hercules that punched him, right? So Galactus says in the Galactus voice, which I can't, I guess, repeat because I'm not some sort of all-powerful space planet eater, is Godling, savor thy next breath you take, for it will be your last. If anyone kicked me in the balls and I could just say that, especially if it was Hercules that punched me in the balls.
Well, I remember I got punched in the balls once.
By Hercules?
By some kid named Dennis.
Okay, so it wasn't Hercules.
Well, in Braveheart when he yells freedom and it's like, oh man, he yelled freedom. That's how I felt, except instead of yelling freedom, I yelled, ow!
Don't you wish you were Galactus with no balls?
I think my favorite one is the guy just kneeing that bear in the crotch.
That was a good one. Or the guy, the girl...
You can't knee a bear!
The girl who was kicking the guy in the crotch and it like tore his torso off his legs.
There's some good ones.
It's a good blog. You should check every post and get subscribed to the RSS so you can see new ones. But yeah, when they were talking about this on a forum somewhere, I posted a link to the Penny Arcade of, right in the Mean Bean Machine.
I think that's in my top 10 of Penny Arcades
It is definitely in my top 5 of Penny Arcades.
Because one, it's hilarious in and of itself.
I highly value my beanbag. But on the other hand, I like tribes too, and I routinely make poor decisions.
Now, two.
Oh, right in the Mean Bean
Aside
Machine.
from just being funny, it was true. Every update for Tribes was being kicked in the nuts, metaphorically and almost physically.
Yep. If my computer had a leg with a shoe on it, that's what it would have been.
Man, right. But without further ado, because I want to get right into this, we've been talking about doing a, final thoughts episode for a while, because the first time we did this was for Big O 2, and it was an incredibly popular episode. And if you've seen Big O and Big O 2 all the way through, I highly recommend you go back and listen to our spoiler show about Big O 2.
Yeah, and I think, from listening to other podcasts like, movies you should see and such, where they review like an entire movie and talk about the whole thing even, it's like, you review an anime or something or a comic, and you're trying to introduce someone to what it's about. So sort of, you get a feeling when you read something, and you want to, if someone will know if they want to read it or watch it or, or not, if you can communicate the feeling you had to them, then they will know if that is a feeling they want, and they'll know if it's something they want to buy. So that's the purpose of a review. But sometimes, you watch something, and watching it again doesn't exactly give you the same feeling as watching it the first time, because you've seen it before, and it's a little. Sometimes it's still good, but it's not exactly the same. And by these final thoughts episode, the goal is by discussing in full something, in a total spoiler manner. We just talk about everything. And the target audience is people who have already seen it.
Or people who don't give a shit about the show.
Or people who don't give a shit and they just they'll listen to all about it because they know they're never going to watch it. Is to sort of let them or help them to relive the feelings they had when they watched it the first time. So that is what we are going to try to do.
And also, luckily, the show we're talking about is one that we didn't need to rewatch because it's a show that affected us kind of profoundly, and we actually remember enough about it, even despite having only seen it once.
I've seen it twice, I think.
I've seen it 1.5 times.
All right.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Because I skipped out on much of that marathon.
Nah.
But yeah, tonight we're going to do a final thoughts episode on Trigun.
Sorry to all you people who voted for something else.
Well, the reason we're doing Trigun also is that...
Don't have to rewatch it.
Well, I want to do one on Ava. And I want to do one on Escaflowne.
Gotta rewatch.
Scott's got to rewatch both of those.
Maybe I'll start that.
Did we do? No, we didn't do one on Utena yet either.
We didn't do anything.
God, Utena will need like.
All we did was Big O.
We'll need like Final Thoughts week.
This is the second one in 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's our trend.
Yes.
I think by next year we'll have watched Ava again.
I think so, too.
Right, but if you haven't seen Trigun yet, first, I want to tell you should go back and listen to our review of Trigun because I am of the feeling
I don't know.
that
Was that a good show? It's so old.
I am of the feeling that Trigun is one of the best, like, top 10, top 20 anime ever made.
Yeah, probably.
In fact, it might be one of the best television shows ever made. It's just...
I don't know about that. It's
think about a
really
lot of
good.
TV.
Everyone should watch it. There would not be a human being on this earth where I would say, no, you probably shouldn't watch Trigun. Everyone should watch it, and I think everyone, no matter who you are, you can get some sort of enjoyment out of it.
But regardless, listen to our review if you've never seen Trigun. And also, if you've never seen Trigun, if you have any inkling that you want to see it, I would really recommend that you do not listen to the rest of this episode.
You should only listen to this episode of Geeknights if you have already seen all of Trigun, all of it, or if you definitely plan to never ever watch it. Now, if you do not fall into one of those two categories, turn your iPod off now.
Well, you're obviously still listening. Now, we'll stop at one point further on, because a lot of you are probably thinking, I don't really care, to give you a second chance, because there's a point at which we're going to go super spoiler.
Here's your second chance.
No, I mean, like, later on. But let's get into it. We don't need to talk about Trigun, you've already seen it.
You've already seen it, so we're not going to synopsize the plot.
I think the biggest thing about Trigun was that it was one of those shows that kind of reels you in with one concept, because Ava did the exact same thing. Like, Trigun is a show, you're not even sure, like, is that Vasha Stampede? I don't know. And
that was definitely good stuff, because, I mean, I didn't, the manga, as long as I say about the manga is bad, don't ask me why I'm buying it.
Yeah, just forget it.
Forget the manga, it is incomprehensible
If you
crap.
think, wait a minute, but if I read the manga, I can get more insight into... No, you can't.
No, it's like when I was watching the anime, I felt like I'm missing something, and the manga's probably got it. No, the manga doesn't have shit.
Those things are best left unthought about.
Yes, just pretend the manga doesn't exist and the show is all you've got. Okay, so you got this show, and the first time I was watching it, it's sort of like so obvious that he's Vash the Stampede, but they don't actually confirm it 100% until like what, episode 5, 4?
It takes a while.
I think it's episode 5 where he fights the really big guy.
It's not even that. They don't even let you figure out. Like, you're not even sure if he's competent, whoever this guy is. And they keep hinting and hinting. It's like, was that an accident? I don't know. What? Maybe? Kinda? And then there's a few scenes, like, I remember when he's down in the water episode where the guy stole all the water.
Yep.
And the guy pulls out the gun and he's about to shoot him. And he dodges the bullet.
Yep.
And then they kind of like write that off. But at that point, it's like, maybe the show's not about what I thought it was
It's one of those things, it's so obvious. You're so sure, but they do such a good job of instilling doubt in you that you can't just go with it 100%. It's like they're feeding you this doubt, and you want to hold on to that doubt, so you do.
But I think the first inkling I got that the show was really, really not what I expected it to be was the show's going along, and you're not sure, and then they get on that... I'm going to say the train, but it's like a boat that goes over the desert.
It's like a desert steam train boat thing.
Doesn't matter. I'm going to call it a train because it's in the style of like an old Western movie. It's effectively a train.
Yep.
And that episode, like that set of 2 episodes where he fights Dynamite's whatever Neon.
Yeah, I think that's his name.
Dynamo. I actually forget, but it doesn't matter. The episode's going on. It's like
the guy.
Yeah, it's like a normal episode, but there's that moment where... he throws those like pipes, those canisters out into the area where the guards are, and he flips out behind and he's trying to shoot him. And he shoots one of the guys and wounds him pretty badly.
And he's all trying to bandage him up and stuff.
Yeah, the kid's like, come on, let's go. And he starts freaking out. Like, no, I can't let this man die. And that really came almost out of nowhere. Like, you kind of got the impression that he was a nice guy or maybe a pacifist or something, but... the tone of the show changed pretty much at that point, because that whole episode from that point on is just him getting hurt and getting screwed and just it's not going well. And suddenly he's not as badass as he was. And it's because, and you realize he won't hurt these people.
I mean, you don't realize he's 100%. You don't erase all doubt of him being Vash the Stampede until episode 5, because for the first 4 episodes, he doesn't fire the gun. The show's called Trigun. They got these guns in the opener. He's carrying around this tremendous gun. There's guns everywhere. This dude doesn't fire his gun until episode 5, and when he does, he fires a bunch of bullets into this gigantic flying fist. You know, he's not hurting anyone with him, really. I mean, he's not killing anyone, that's for sure. And that's the moment where they go, oh my god, he's Vash the Stampede. And she makes that big funny face, and she's like, oh, it's like Home Alone.
Yeah. But I think, like, that episode and then it leads up to the fight where Vash couldn't win the fight. There's no way he could have won. It was obvious that, like, he would have died right then and there. And the guy is just so impressed by, I guess, his testicular fortitude that he basically concedes defeat and leaves.
Yep.
And it's like the show is really silly, like the way things are set up. And look at that guy, look at that character design. That's silly. That's crazy.
That's crazy because that's the style that was in the manga. That's even crazier in the manga. That's one thing. The character designs. I mean, usually they change a lot from manga to anime, you know, but they change so much. Like the character designs are completely different. It's so different, but some of that craziness carries over, and you can see it all over the place.
But it was interesting how that set of scenes was so ludicrous in terms of what that bad guy was and what those people were doing. And yet, what's going on a deeper level, you know, what people are fighting for and what people are saying was, I don't know, very poignant. And you almost start to suspend disbelief and forget that it's this crazy guy with a neon gun, and you start to just only see the drama. Like, you put on blinders and you just see the drama of these characters, these personalities. Yep. There aren't many shows that can pull that off. Fist of the North Star, not so much.
I think part of the reason the show succeeds with that so well is that, unlike a lot of other shows, there is sort of a character development, but it's sort of twofold, right? On the one hand, you have these characters who already developed a lot before the first episode, you chronologically speaking, right? But they keep a lot of those developments hidden from you, and they reveal them with flashbacks or characters to keeping secrets from other characters.
Yep, I remember, wasn't it episode 13 where we actually thought we put the wrong DVD in?
Did we?
Because remember, it starts out as a different show.
That's episode, 17.
Is it?
Yeah.
I remember at some point, it was right after in that big plot development in the middle.
Well, it's a spoiler episode here. It's episode 17 where they go back and it's, Vash and Nobs and they were kids in space.
Yeah.
That's episode 17. 13,
okay.
13 is the one where Vash is Diablo, where it's the guy
yeah.
He freaking shoots his mask off and stuff. The guy was
that
in prison.
was an episode. I think we even talked about that in the review, where just up until that point, the show is kind of a mystery. Like, you've got this character, Vash, and you don't know what's going on, and he has visions, and he says things to himself, and there's all these little scenes where you get glimpses of the depth of this character, and you get glimpses of the sadness that he bears, but you're not sure what the deal is. And then that episode, when
you still don't know what the deal is in that episode, but he goes crazy with the crazy power.
You know what the deal of the show is, because in that episode, there's that murderer, and he's just killing people in this city left and right, and he doesn't care, and he just kills these people without even thinking about it. And then Vash just loses it, and he's standing over him, and he's shot off his mask, and he's got the gun to his forehead, and he just keeps saying, "You killed those people. They're dead. They're gone forever. They can't come back. You did this to them. Cocks the gun. There was no reason why I shouldn't just kill you." And the guy's just crying. And I was moved by that scene, not to tears, but just, you can feel the fear of that person. And on one hand, I feel like, how horrible would it be to kill that person? He's crying. Look how absolutely suddenly afraid. He's feeling the most fear that you can possibly feel. And yet, he deserves to die. And he's killed hundreds of people. If you've killed hundreds of people, then you really shouldn't be crying when someone's trying to kill you. But yet, Vash is there and can kill him, and he says he should kill him, and I don't want him to kill him, but yet I do, and then he doesn't kill him.
That's also important because that's the moment where Vash reveals that he's got this, hidden gun in his arm. It's like you just learned, more hidden secrets of previous character development that he's got his mechanical arm with a gun inside of it, and it's like, wow, he's a lot more fucked up than we thought.
And
he
then
was.
You remember there's all those little things, little bits of technology and things that Vash has that are really anachronistic. They don't fit into the world in the setting, and that starts to come together a bit more, and then you realize that it's actually a sci-fi, straight up.
Something like that.
I remember at that point when he revealed the second gun, that machine gun, I was thinking, like right away, wait a minute, the show's called Trigun. Where's the third gun? And when you find out what the third gun is, like, oh man.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I guess people, you know what the third gun is. You've seen it.
Yeah, but
I think okay, but anyway, the other part of the character development, right, is that, a lot of shows, you start off with these sort of cliche characters, and then they do what you expect, and they don't really change. Here, you've got characters who developed in the past chronologically. They reveal those developments, as if they are secrets that are revealed. And then they continue to develop as the show goes on more new things. Like they change from episode to episode. I mean, they start out silly, and then there's less silliness. Guys, start out bad, and then they change a little bit. And, like, even, like, Brad, he's in there for, like, what, 2 episodes? Something like that?
I gotta talk about Brad.
Right? The guy's in there for, like, 2 episodes, right? But in those 2 episodes, he does more character changes and development than most characters in, like, a whole 50-episode anime.
This is a big spoiler thing, but I really gotta get into this, because Brad reminded me of all the...
And when he first appears, you don't like him.
Well, no, the thing that Trigun does so well throughout is that, in a lot of shows, people die, and there's impact, but Trigun is one of those shows where the death of any character, whether it's a good guy, a bad guy, it doesn't matter. Death is actually kind of rare, and it doesn't happen for a long time in the show. And when people actually start dying, the show makes you feel it. It really makes you feel it. No matter who the character was, no matter what horrible things they've done.
Well, it's because, they pay... It's not like you're watching like a Gundam show where it's like, okay, who's gonna die? Someone's gonna die, right? But it's like they focus so much on death because it's the whole point of the show. They keep focusing on it. But deaths of people, don't actually happen all too often. So because they're focusing on it, and you're focusing, and there's nothing there, and you're focusing, and there's nothing there. It's like you're honing in this microscope on nothing. And then a bacteria comes into focus. You're like, oh, shit!
Well, plus, the show they set it up. Whenever they're going to kill a character, they make sure that you're going to cry. It's like they do everything right to make you feel it when that character goes. And
they make sure it's coming.
I cried like 4 or 5 times during Trigun. I cried almost every time a character died. That's how powerfully this show hits you. I mean, Brad is a good example, right? Brad is introduced, and you hate him. He's an asshole. He's an idiot. He's ruining everything. He's a bad person.
He's like, he's on the good guy's side.
Barely.
But he is. But he's sort of like, he's not trusting of Vosh, and he's like, you gotta do it my way. You guys are all stupid.
And
sort of like Starscream. He's a Decepticon, but he doesn't like the way the Decepticons are going about things, so he's all pissy.
But then at the end of that little story arc when they're in the base, they just kill him out of nowhere. That death comes out of the blue, and he just dies. And there's no fanfare. He's dead. And I lost it right then. I just started crying. And I thought, wow, I hated that character until just now. And I think that was the purpose. I think they really wanted you to hate that character right until he died. Because then it's almost like that regret feeling.
It's like, he was a good guy.
Well, it's kind of like, if you part with someone on bad terms and then they die and you never got to say you were sorry.
Well, like imagine if, like that just used the Starscream example, right? Imagine if on the Autobots there was an Autobot who would just, like he was good, he was on the Autobot side, he hated Decepticons, but he was always fighting with Optimus Prime, like, oh, you're kind of stupid. He was always sort of like the annoying guy who was, saying that the way they were doing things was wrong and he was belligerent, but he was on the good guy's side. And then he just suddenly died unexpectedly. You'd be like, oh, he was always belligerent, but...
It's
he
not
was
just
a good guy and he was on our side.
It's not just that he was a good guy. He was on our side. It's not that simplistic. It's more that the way the scenes were set up and the character progression and the scenes where Brad had screen time and talked and the way it's like the show tricks you into not liking this character and then sets it up to where the only point at which you will start to like the character is the moment they die. And now it's too late to take back your previous feelings. And all you get is the reaction shot of all the people who knew him, and now he's dead.
And what's sort of crazy is, like, the way he dies, like, the crazy puppet master guy is coming in, and it's sort of ridiculous. You got this puppet master guy, and it's totally crazy, but it works. You're not going, wow, that was some fucked up shit with this puppet master stuff. No, it's like, oh my god, he died. And you totally believe all the crazy bad shit that's going on, which is very hard for a show to do, to have such ridiculous imagery and ridiculous stuff going on. But you totally accept it 100% with no, you totally accept in episode 5 the guy who's 50 feet tall and has like his dad is like sitting in his pocket, and his dad has a revolver for a butt.
And it doesn't matter. The fact that the drama of this show comes out through that stylized, crazy, but, Brad's death was one thing. Then there's Wolfwood.
Oh, man.
That scene, I to this day, I have never seen the death of any character with the possible exception of one scene in Cowboy Bebop, and I'm not going to say which scene because it's not the one you think. I think that was the most just painful to watch, difficult to deal with death scenes, and also one of the most beautifully done death scenes in all of anime.
Well, because, they laid it on so thick. It wasn't like Ava where just everyone's head explodes, right? And it wasn't like some other shows where it's like, someone's in like the climax and then they say a dramatic thing and then an explosion.
No, it made death so real and so visceral, and yet it was, look, he's been shot. Wolfwood was shot, and he was seriously injured. And he talks to Vaj, and he goes into the church. And the imagery, he kneels down, and he's not a religious man, and he's not he thinks of himself as almost an evil man, but he was trying to do good, and all the conflict of his character comes out all at once, and he's just alone in this church with that cross over his shoulder, holding himself up, and that music starts playing, and I'll admit, I choke up a little bit just hearing, that Rocco N song, just,
Yep.
Because
the way they do it is a lot less like other anime do it, and a lot more like someone would die in like a very melodramatic play, like
Not
on
even-
stage, because
even
it's
beyond-
sort of drawn out, and they get like the light coming in,
But yet,
and
watching it, it
mom-
doesn't feel melodramatic because it's so personal. It's very much like the thoughts that would go through someone's head when they're dying. And he's sitting there, and he's thinking...
what you would think.
Well, no, look, he's thinking about everything that he's done. And he feels bad because he shot that kid. And he thought that it was the right thing to do. But yet, he doubts it. And his life is flashing before his eyes. And he's starting to resign himself to death. And then he remembers Millie. And that they had a moment just before... Because remember, in like the previous episode... Or maybe the same episode. It was right before then, where he had killed that kid, and he's really broken up about it, and Millie comes into the room, and he's on the verge of tears, and she just hugs him. And then he says something like, "You're a good healer," and it just leaves it at that. Like, those characters have this moment.
Yeah, they
See,
do.
again, the show sets you up. They're like, all right, this character has found love, and this character has found solace. The moment they're happy, we're going to kill one.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't even like... they keep it so subtle too. They're like, is it? It's not like they just come out with it and say, here's how it is. It's just they're so subtle with it. Like, here's a little bit of something.
It's like this character just like suddenly a character shows an emotion, and then the flashbacks to the few moments that they had together, and when he pictures her face, the final moment before he actually dies, and he suddenly says no, I want to live, and he starts to stand up like he's gonna pull himself up and walk out of the church. And you think, and it pulls you on this roller coaster. You're like, he's gonna live. He's gonna live.
I never thought he was gonna live.
Well, he starts to stand up.
He does.
And he's looking, and he's trying, and he's like, he has the will to live. He has more will to live than he has ever had in his life. And then the cigarette just falls out of his mouth, and his hand falls over. And I remember because we all watched this like in Scott's room.
You're like sitting in a cramped dorm room, like in a low resolution real media file on my 17-inch CRT.
And we're all like standing around, and there's just silence, and we're just watching, and nothing happens, and it fades away, and it just cuts to the outside of the place where everyone's sleeping, and then you just hear Millie shriek and start crying, and there aren't many times in anime where a voice actor crying sounds realistic and sounds visceral and sounds real, and
it always sounds kind of weird or hackneyed or something.
Forced, but that shriek was painful to listen to, and I just started outright crying.
Yeah, it's just painful to even think about it right now, even.
But
like, I don't want to think about that.
Think about that. It sets you up to where the character dies, and it's so powerful that you can't react to it. And then they don't just let it end there. They force you to deal with the reaction shot, with the other characters, especially that one character reacting to it. And that's always been a thing for me where I don't react.
But it's not, but it's like, but they give you so little to actually grab onto. It's
I mean,
like,
look, they don't
it's like
let
they
you...
give you enough to like poke you, but they don't give you anywhere to like put it. It's like, oh, it's coming out. Where do I put it? There's no buckets. The episode's over.
Like,
oh
look,
God.
They just like show him sitting there. And then the next scene, they don't even show you Millie. Vosh is just standing outside the door and he doesn't know what to do. And she's just shrieking inconsolably and you don't even see her.
Yep.
And then the episode just ends.
Yep.
No music, no nothing. It just ends.
It's like you got this water balloon and they fill it with water and they pop it and there's no bucket. And you're like, oh, water. Oh, God. Oh,
and
God.
just... that is one of the most powerful moments in media I've ever seen.
It's pretty good. It's up there.
I can't say it's the most powerful thing I've ever seen, but then again, I've always I don't know if this is a more universal thing, but a lot of times in a show like this or in any show, because Fullmetal Alchemist had a similar thing where a character dies, and I don't feel it. Like I don't feel it viscerally, but I feel it, on that like the character died, and I feel bad, and it's kind of like with bated breath. And it's not until the other characters react, or like in Fullmetal Alchemist's case, I didn't cry or feel sad until the funeral scene, and I had to deal with seeing all the other characters react to this.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess that's what it sort of is. It's like, a funeral in real life allows you to like come to terms with it, right? But if you don't get a funeral in the anime, if you just get like a second, if they don't give you enough time to deal with it, it's like you can't deal with it because now you're full of it and there's nowhere to go.
But of course, because of that scene and that scene's power in episode 23, and I have watched that scene 10 or 15 times over the course of the years just because it's perfect. I don't think it could have been done better in the context of that show.
Maybe not.
But I forgot where I was going for, but okay. At the end, the fight with knives, and the very end of the show, when you hear Wolfwood's voice out of nowhere, that was like, it's almost like that scene where he pulls up the cross gun, and you hear Wolfwood's voice for just that second, saying basically, "You idiot," blah. It's almost like that scene and that little clip of him saying that was able to draw on all the emotion that was pent up from when Wolfwood died, 3 episodes prior.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of anime at the end, have a scene where it's like, there's a huge battle scene at the end, fighting. Everyone's, on their last breath. They're all tired out from this incredible battle. And then at the last second, the good guy pulls out something amazing. Holy shit, and he wins.
Or he
right?
hears, like, the voice of, like, use the Force, Luke, or, like, the dead mother's final words or something.
Yep, but this show does both of them at the same time. You get it's like, imagine if it was, like, use the Force, Luke, and then he pulled out, like, some secret weapon that he didn't know he had, so you get both. And that's pretty strong stuff right there.
But it draws on all, like, the emotion from Wolfwood's death. You were given no release, and Millie crying and shrieking, and then just the characters dealing after that. You carry that inside you until that moment at the end where you hear his voice, and it's almost like everything was vindicated. And at that moment, all the grief comes out. But you don't get released till then. But I think we have
it's like 4 episodes of trouble right there.
Yeah. And of course, in that time, we have probably the most important scene in the entire show. When Legato.
Oh, Legato.
Because that one last warning, we're going to spoil the fucking end of the show at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So if you thought I don't care about Trigun and you've gotten this far, seriously stop now. Right.
But yeah, so Legato is this guy. And it's sort of rough because, like, you're kind of sure that Knives is the big top bad guy, right? But you see this Legato guy throughout the show, in a few episodes, doing this. He's an evil guy.
Legato is scary.
He looks evil. He's scary. He's not his character design is not as freaky as all the other villains.
I think he is the most frightening and disturbing thing in all of Trigun.
Probably.
Just because he's so understated and he's just there, but all the scenes where
He's sort of like, in The Simpsons. He's that guy in the white suit who stands there doing nothing. But he's going to do something awesome.
That's not the analogy I would have used.
That's what I was thinking.
But, like, remember
That's why you think he's the most dangerous and the most evil and the most scary.
Most dangerous?
Yeah.
MD?
Exactly.
He's the MD?
Because he's always there. He's not always there, but he's there often, haunting and threatening and being kind of evil. But he doesn't actually use his evil until like the last minute.
I think what makes him frightening is much deeper than that. That character is a person. He's basically a thrall of knives. I mean, all the gung-ho guns, for various reasons, have fallen under the spell of knives. And that's another thing, how every gung-ho gun is a horrible person, and yet you feel terrible as each one of them dies. You absolutely, you hate them. And then you just feel nothing but pity and remorse when they die. And you wish they wouldn't die. And
the show sort of hints that there was more to them that you just didn't see. It's like from what you see of them, when you do see them, it's like, oh, they're horrible. But then there's like something about them that's not so horrible. That's sort of like not just brought out like, look, they were not horrible. But it's like, maybe they weren't hard. It's like the saxophone guy. He's good at the saxophone.
That's not but like even the sniper, when he suddenly just kills himself out of the blue. And I remember when...
Yeah, it's like he didn't have to kill himself.
But that scene was done so well because, like, Vash catches him and Vash is just like, I'm not going to hurt you. And then he just pulls out a gun, and before Vash can even reach over, he just kills himself.
Yep.
Just right in front of him. And the way Vash reacts was that I almost cried there just because of the way Vash handled that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that scene when Vash and Wolfwood are talking after that, because that's right when Wolfwood is shot to death. But anyway.
Yep.
But with Legato, I mean, remember the scene where Legato just sits on the opposite park bench of Vash?
And he messes with the kid.
And, like, Vash just suddenly has that vision of him killing that kid.
Yep.
And then, it didn't happen. And Legato is scary.
That's like one of the best scenes in the whole show over there, where like the basketball's bouncing around, and he's got like the donut.
I held my breath for that whole scene.
Because it's the thing with that scene is that they get you in, because there's parts of the show early on, there's a lot more parts of the show where it's sort of happy and silly. There's jokes and, there's people drinking and eating donuts and having fun, right? And towards, as the show goes on, that's less and less and less. And this is sort of like, for a second, they're like, we're going to return to the happy donut part for a second. You're like, yeah, I like that part. We haven't had that in a while. And then they're like, just kidding. But he's sitting there holding the donut still. And there's like this kid, and it's like, Legato's there. And it's like, oh, man.
And, the show says so much at that point. It almost says that you can't live the happy life. You cannot get past what's going on. There is no way to return to things that were before until all of this is resolved one way or the other.
It's at that moment you're like, okay, I guess we're not going to have a lot more donut eating the rest of this show.
Well, that wasn't how I looked at it, but...
Yeah.
But that just the scene after that where basically this sets up the first of the two primary moral dilemmas in the show. And the Legato scene and then the knives fight at the end are basically everything that Trigun has to say condensed into two moral dilemmas where there is no answer.
Yep.
And I like how they let Vash decide both ways and show the consequences of both. And it's a very morally ambiguous show at that point. I mean, look, and this is where, because when I first saw Trigun to the end, I thought, and Scott agreed, and we all thought, wow, that show was pretty much a treatise on pacifism and saying that killing is never justified ever.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, you can always, stop stuff. You can resolve any situation without killing someone. You can just beat them up or subdue them or something. But then it's like, wait a minute. You can only do that because the guy's a freaking super-powered, crazy go-nuts, not even human thing.
Well, it's not even that. Like, I think that whole part of it...
And even then he couldn't do it.
Doesn't even matter. It's just that the show on its surface looks like it's a treatise against the idea of killing. Because the show constantly is just showing you that no matter what, no matter how strongly you feel, killing another sentient being will always be abhorrent and that there is no justification. And yet, finally, Vash is put into a perfect moral dilemma. Legato has controlled the entire city. They are going to murder Millie and, what's her name?
Meryl.
Straight up, there is no way out. They are going to murder them. Vash's options are to kill all of those people, to kill Legato, or to let Millie and Meryl die. And there is no possible way out. He has to decide in a purely moral standpoint what he's going to do. And that scene is just so well done. And it waits and it waits. And it doesn't even show it to you. You just hear the gunshot. And Legato falls over.
Yep.
And then Vash just loses it.
He does indeed lose it.
And think about that. I mean, you think, oh, the show says pacifism. Yay. Think about that. A lot of people then said, because there's another way to look at this, that then at the end of the show, when he doesn't kill Knives and he takes the other road out, and a lot of people, I think, incorrectly say that the moral of the show is, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, as long as you realize it was wrong and wouldn't do it again. But go back. All right. Vash realized that killing was wrong. He did it once. He regrets it. He's atoned for it. Would he do it again? Go back to that situation. If he didn't kill Legato, then other innocent people would have died. There was still no way out.
Yeah. I mean, he could have somehow morally justified it to himself by saying, I didn't kill the people. But what does that get you? It gets you no friends because they're all dead.
Now, thus, my end conclusion of what Trigun is trying to say, because my funny answer is not that it's not about pacifism or whatever. The moral of Trigun is very simple. One fucker can ruin everybody's day. Because look at it. Every bad thing that happens in the whole show is the direct result of one man.
Yeah, pretty much.
One man is the cause of everything bad that ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you believe the things, the way the show presents everything, right? If Knives wasn't an ass, then everyone would have been being all happy like they are after the end of the show where, they're digging up the well and they found water in the desert and they're living in their happy town with their happy people and all that stuff, right? But no, he's just the one guy. He ruined everything.
But that actually plays into what I think the higher moral, I guess, conjecture of the show is that, all right, Vash has to make... It's basically saying that pacifism is a noble ideal and it should be the goal of every sentient being. But at the same time, it is an impossible goal. And it is, I think the show is saying straight up that...
Unless you want to let bad people get away, unless you want to let other bad people just get away with killing people,
I think the show is saying that pacifism is untenable.
Yeah.
And I think that is the only thing you can truly take away from this show.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, he chose, but that's why the show is so great, because Vash is basically a deity, a god. He is superhuman. And the only reason he is able to get as far as he has without killing people to save other people is because he's more than all those other people. He is inhuman. And I guess the moral, and even then, look at all his wounds. The show is saying that if you are not a superhuman, you cannot be a pacifist. It is impossible. That is a burden that is too great for any man to bear.
Unless you just want to let bad guys get away with all their terrible stuff.
And it's like, as the world will always have people like Knives. And the best you can do is try to change them and try to save them. But in the end, killing is possibly unavoidable. And I think that you should always abhor the killing of other beings, but at the same time, you must not shy away from it if it's the only option.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the strength of the show is that at the end of the very show, Vash decides not to kill Knives. Yeah. Even though he knows that cannot end well. He knows from all that he's learned that is not going to end things, and that killing him would end things. But then again, you could look at it at the same time that, all right, killing Knives would end that, but there'll always be another Knives. Are you going to kill them all? Yeah. But yet, you can't not kill them because then the innocent people die. So it's a morally complex show, and I think that is, if nothing else, that is what makes this show stand above so many other shows.
Another thing, unlike, a lot of other shows, I mean, there's some anime out there that are so, convoluted and get all existential like Ava, where it's like, what did it really mean? It was just, and some people go, oh, it's just batshit crazy. Oh, it's just,
well, I think those people are dumb.
Right.
I think Ava was pretty straightforward in what it was saying.
But there are other shows, like, I don't know, that are just heavy-handed and just out there. They're like, this is our message. We just say it to you in plain words, right, in English. This is what the show's about.
Yep.
Like Macross. war is bad.
Or look, like Gundam Seed. Gundam Seed was a great show and an emotional roller coaster, but it was still a pretty simplistic moral message in the end.
And
it was
they
like,
come out with it
war's bad, killing's bad.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, Trigun, right, delivers its moral message in a not crazy, convoluted, existential, fuck with your mind kind of way, right? But not in an incredibly blunt and simplistic way. It gives you stuff that you can work with and understand and get a hold of that's not batshit, fucked up. But at the same time, it doesn't just say, this is the one answer, this is the lesson we're trying to teach you. It just gives you this stuff and says, go work with that. Yeah, what are you going to do with that, huh? Yeah.
Yep, it asks you questions.
And it makes you, it actually puts the ideas directly into your mind, but doesn't give you like an answer to those ideas. It's just like, here, play around with these ideas. And you go, oh, and that's what makes you so upset with the show, because it's upsetting.
The show is upsetting because it asks difficult questions that I say,
and
this is what I think the show's about.
Yeah, they don't give you a definitive answer. They show you what the different answers are, and you don't like any of them. It's like, well, here's one answer to that question we just asked you. Here's the other answer to that question we just asked you. Pick one. They both suck. Yeah, don't they?
I think the show is very uncomfortable to watch for anyone who has any sort of moral compass at all.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're an evil fucker, you'll be like, go
Man, Knives was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
He is kind of cool as a character, even though he's bad.
well, look at Knives. He's a child almost to the end. He's a child who lashes out at people and has temper tantrums, but because he's so powerful, his temper tantrums end in the deaths of millions.
Yeah, pretty much.
The show is just so good.
Yeah.
It's one of those few shows that I could watch it again and again and never get sick of it.
I don't know. I think I could get sick of it after a while. I couldn't watch it forever. And
Well, no, but I could periodically watch this show every several years for the rest of my life and probably not get sick of it. I couldn't watch it back to back like I could Star Wars.
Yeah. Another thing is the structure of the show is sort of like this perfect balance between being like episodic and between being, this serial where you can't miss an episode. So it's like you could actually skip some episodes here and there, but each individual episode is like an individual work, except for like, I guess, the last 3 or 4, which sort of go together, and some of the 2-parters and stuff.
I also like how the show is so just self-consistent. Like, for much of the early part, there's a lot of kind of mystical mystery, like Vash's memories and his visions and this woman Lem, and you don't know who she is, and all this kind of mystical, what's going on? Why does he feel this way? Vash is always asking himself questions like, what am I? And what am I doing? And am I living up to what Lem would want? And then when
Rem or whatever you want to
when
call
they give
it.
you the answer as to, I like how the actual answer as to the backstory is straight up face value science fiction. This is exactly what happened.
Yep.
It's not like Ava, mystery, amorphous.
Yeah, there was the second impact. What was it? We're not going to come out and really say.
Actually, Ava is pretty straightforward in that part. Like, directly. It's like the first impact was this, second impact was this, third impact was this.
Kinda.
This is why. Yeah, it was, if you're paying attention.
Kinda.
Seriously, it was.
Kinda.
Yeah, straight up. But anyway, I digress. Trigun is very much this, then this, then this, now this.
Yeah. It's like, here, this is exactly what happened in the past. This is the history of the world. But they don't give that to you until episode 17, 2/3 of the way through the show before you know the backstory. So it's all, you got the mysteries being revealed, and you've also got, things in the future, things actually changing as they go forward. So they start you in the middle, and they give you the back and the forward at the same time, and it works out really well.
I mean, what else can I say? In sum, Trigun was awesome.
Trigun is super awesome.
And I guess I don't need to recommend it to anyone at this point.
It also has good music and good design stylings and the best characters, and it's awesome. And it's only 26 episodes, and I'm pretty sure it's really cheap right now because it's an old popular show.
I feel like we should buy it because we own the last DVD because it has
Did we get rid of that last DVD?
I don't remember.
I don't remember
because it's episode 23 through the end.
Yeah, it's 23, 24, 25, 26.
So it's got like all the best episodes of the show on one DVD.
Most of the best episodes. Trigun was a good show. And those are the final thoughts of Trigun.
I think so. I can't say more than that. Other than going
Trigun
through specific.
Trigun.
Well,
I could say more, but
like I think one of my favorite scenes, just in general, was Chapel, and when him and Wolfwood are having their fight.
And see, that scene is really cool because in the show, like, this actually, if you read the manga, which is impossible to understand and sucks, right? They actually sort of, discuss, like, all this stuff, like, something Michael something, right? But what's the deal with the churchy people and stuff, right? Whatever. But in this show, right, it's like they barely say anything. It's like this guy appears, and he's like, something chapel something. And you look at the guy, and obviously he's got something to do with Wolfwood. He's related to him in some way, perhaps his mentor from earlier days, something like that, and, something like... And... they don't really need to say more than that. And they don't say any more than they have to make their point. But it's like, Wolfwood's come to, you knew Wolfwood had a secret past. Here's enough of the secret past that all you have to know for the show to work. Here it is. And here's the resolution of it. Oh, my God.
But just that scene and the interaction between Wolfwood and Chapel when they're actually fighting, and both characters progress as characters in the short span of that scene. And they don't show you the resolution of that scene. You just hear it, and you see the look on Chapel's face, and how he doesn't want to do it, but he's forced to. And
Yep. There's no unnecessary bits, and every bit is not wasted. There's no unimportant moment.
I feel like I can't talk about those heavy scenes in more detail because I'll get choked up. Seriously, the show is that emotionally impactful to me.
Even though on the surface, it's a rowdy comedy about a Western post-apocalyptic
and a preacher
action.
with a cross gun who puts a confessional on your head and donuts
and a really tall insurance agent with her friend who has 1 million derringers.
And yet the show is just...
and a drunken guy who is a weaponsmith.
And if a show that silly can make me cry 4 or 5 times, handily, not like, the one man tear like I got in like Firefly, I'm talking like sobbing. Because remember that when we first saw that, episode 23 with Wolfwood's Eye and the Scream, we're all like trying not to cry. And I remember there was this one moment where everyone kind of looked around and we all saw that we were all trying not to cry. And then we all started crying. Yeah. And that was like the man bonding moment.
And then the episode's over, so it's not like, you can hide your crying behind the rest of the episode.
Yep, and that was pretty much when the front row crew as a core bonded fully because we all just cried openly in front of each other at a Japanese cartoon.
In a dorm room on a CRT with a real media file.
And
bad subtitles.
Barely legible subtitles. Oh, man. Actually, that's one thing I got to say. Our subtitles were wrong. But the scene where, Millie comes in and just hugs Wolfwood, and the subtitle said, and I'm pretty sure it was a bad translation, was all Wolfwood said was, "You're a good healer." And I just thought that was such a great line, and it kind of disappointed me when I found out that it wasn't exactly what he said.
Yeah. It's sort of, I guess that can happen with anything, where if you watch something and you get a translation of it or a rendition of it, and then you get a slightly different rendition, there's sort of a getting used to the original one or liking one over the other, and it's it's hard to say which one's objectively, I guess, better or whatever.
But yeah, you know what? If you didn't cry at some point during Trigun, you're not a human being.
Or you're just a really cold human
You'd
being.
have to be pretty freaking cold, because Scott and I are often called out for our callousness, and we cried like little girly man.
Let's see. Who is that cold?
Well, Legato wouldn't have cried.
No, he probably wouldn't have cried.
You know what? I think Hitler would have been a little bit sad.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Maybe. I don't think he would have changed his ways, though.
No.
And he was one fucker that ruined everyone's day.
He probably would have been like, yeah, in a way, he's like Knives.
A lot?
All right, I think the show is over.
Over. Yeah, Godwin's Law, it's over.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.